Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the 365 Message Center Show. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can shorten all of your online meetings, your Exchange online meetings for your entire organization, audience targeting for SharePoint events, and how organizers can lock Microsoft Teams meetings. Let's get it started. Darrell. What are you flipping the coin for, Darrell? What are you trying to decide? Whether you're going to do the show or not, or what?
I just love the way that you were very precise with the way you were announcing.
I'm trying to be accurate. Actually,
That's right.
My throat's hurting a little bit, so that's probably why.
Well, you take a drink, and I'll talk to these lovely people while you do that.
Well, I think
welcome.
Could you mention maybe how they could follow us and subscribe and all that stuff up front instead of doing it at the very end? Then people will hear it.
That makes sense. We're not going to do it that cheesy ring the bell and like and subscribe and stuff, because everyone does that. I've got into the habit of saying, you know where we are, you know what to do, so do it, right?
But what if they don't know where they are or what to do?
True. Like, they might be listening to this audio podcast and they don't know that we do a webcast as well, which they could see some of the content on the screen and see us talk about the demos. Vice versa. They might be watching that but didn't know they could listen to the podcast on their way to work.
So everyone subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the video, ring the bell, hit the big thumbs up. Okay, everybody? We really appreciate that. Darrell, you wanted to talk about an announcement that is an updated announcement.
I know. Like, we've generally kind of formed a rule now where we don't really cover stuff that says it's updated because it's the same message, but it's really just an update for usually the delivery date. This message, Viva Connections for Microsoft Teams desktop clients, updated. It's MC 244743, originally published in March 17. It was around letting us know that we could, we're going to be able to download the script, and we're going to be able to publish the SharePoint home, which becomes Viva Connections, and we can add it to Teams and all that sort of stuff. Can I use the word kerfuffle again? Because I know that it really resounds with our audience.
Yes. Our audience loves kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle, yeah. There was a kerfuffle around whether or not you could make this possible, make it happen by just simply being in a first release group. And it was discovered that you had to do more than that. You had to be quite specific. You could just say first release for the whole org. So this is an updated message because of that and some other further misunderstandings, that there's some reliance on some other features to be released. So the navigation configuration is a dependency of the SharePoint app bar, based on our learnings from the early rings. App bar rollout timelines have been adjusted. And so that's affecting also the Viva connection ability to make that a possible or turn it on within your organization. So the feature that was supposed to be rolled out by March 2020 may have been taking a bit longer for some of you. Don't worry, it's still coming.
2021.
To be honest.
2021, right?
Yes, 2021.
You said 2020, but correct. Time this last year has been off for many of folks, including myself, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And Microsoft, apparently, because everything misses its release date. So.
Yeah. Look, I was reading something about that too. And some opinions around how, like, there's been a lot of additional productivity, not just in the development space and for organizations like Microsoft, but generally working from home, we're getting more done, but we're actually also getting closer and closer to burnout. And so we can understand that if there's been some aggressive timelines for we want to release certain things at certain times, you are going to see more of these updated messages. It's the way.
But we're not going to cover them.
No, not all the time. Just some of the interesting ones like this.
It's a joke, people. It's a joke. Let's talk about. It is a joke. Let's talk about targeting. Do you want to talk about targeting? I'll talk about targeting.
It's all yours.
Yeah? Okay. This is SharePoint audience targeting capability for events web part MC251867. This is hot on the heels of targeting of news and of navigation. We now have the capability of turning on targeting. Well, we will, because this rollout is for targeted release mid-April, which, congratulations, we're in mid-April. And rolling out completed by early May, standard release mid-May to the mid-June. But we'll be able to turn on audience targeting for events. For those that are familiar with how it works in news and actually navigation as well, you have to turn it on, as this screenshot is showing here, this very large screenshot in the message. I don't have to click on the image to make it bigger. It's already humongous. You have to, for the web part itself, for the events, you have to turn on, you have to enable the audience targeting, and then you'll be able to utilize that functionality for events. Once you do, you will then get an audience field there for you to enable the audience for each one that you put in there. So that is, it's going to function just like the others function. So if, this SharePoint admin doesn't have to be involved, it's just site admin to be able to do this and to enable that in audience targeting. So again, that's rolling out to targeted release now, and next month it'll be to standard release. Any questions? Okay,
no questions. Just
comments.
It's probably going to affect more the organizations that have a lot of events displayed on a communication site. They've got tons coming up. I know that to make the events web part look good, you don't want to have too many displayed, but by using audience targeting, you could have a whole lot and narrow it down to just the ones that will be for you.
Right. I think this is will be mostly utilized at the hub level, at that level where you're having multiple personas, and departments coming in and utilizing your site, so you could target those events to those different groups. Will you use audience targeting for your department site? I would highly doubt it, unless it's a very large department and all of that. I think you're going to be utilizing this on your intranets, on your news or events pages that, maybe you have a roll up of all of those. I think, things like that, I think is a great use of this functionality. So speaking of great functionality and keeping people out, I don't know, I'm just making this up. Talk to us about locking stuff, Darrell.
Well, you've just about covered the whole thing just by saying that. It is really quite a simple update, but we had some thoughts around the implications of how this can impact you. Organizers can lock meetings. MC251564. This is Teams meetings, of course. You will be able to, as you join the meeting, there'll be an additional button there where you can actually manage the permissions on the fly. Sometimes I've used that other one, by the way, to quickly change the permissions so that I don't have to let people in if they're sitting there in the lobby. But underneath that same ellipsis button, the participants pane within the meeting, you will see the lock the meeting button. And as the name suggests, it will lock the meeting, not just for Teams clients, but it will also prevent anyone from dialing in if you use that functionality within Teams too. And why would we use this? Because it could be one of those sensitive meetings where we don't want anyone to just come on in. There's another feature I would pair this with, and if you are organizing a sensitive meeting, you probably should also use that feature to prevent people from forwarding a meeting invite on to other people. And that will make sure that the meeting is only available to people you invite. But once it's started, this is the final piece of security, you might say, if it's I don't know, a special shareholder acquisitions thing that you want to lock off, or maybe it's a one-to-one meeting.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Like your one-on-one meetings with your manager, maybe a meeting with HR, things like that, where and just. It doesn't have to be a super sensitive or super secret meeting. It could also be, I don't want to have to monitor the participants list to make sure no one's joined, right? We're all here. Mm-hmm. Great. Lock it. I don't want to have to monitor that to make sure no one's listening, right? It doesn't have to be super secret. It could just be, hey, we are talking about stuff that if maybe an outsider heard, then it would be bad. Like, outside your company. Talking about something you're going to release in the next, and you don't want competitors to join. I will say I'm probably going to start using it more than not. Just for that reason. I don't want to have to monitor the participant. Who does monitor the participants list for a meeting with just a handful of people?
Well, here's another good use case, Daniel. If you really want to drive a behavior of turn up to meetings on time,
lock it. Yeah.
You can lock it and say, hey, you didn't turn up, man.
Yeah.
The other thing I was looking at with here is it doesn't really say or differentiate between whether it's just for scheduled meetings, for Meet Now, for meetings within channels. Imagine starting a channel meeting in your team. It's available to everyone, but you as an organizer, the person who started that meeting in the channel, flicks the lock meeting button and it's not available to anyone in the team now, except the people that are in the meeting at the time.
Yeah, I think you're going to get some interesting experiences, people dialing in. And I also would like to know what it's going to say. When you try to join, will it say this meeting is now locked, or, that'll be interesting. The last thing I think we just need to mention is this is the desktop app. Is the way you lock it. So I guess it's not going to be available in the browser version or in the mobile right now. So to be able to lock it,
you're probably
right.
Exactly.
Yep.
If you're an organizer, your best experience is going to be from the desktop. But yeah, good point. That's rolling out mid-May, complete by end of May. Daniel, let's turn our attention to Exchange now. We're still thinking of meetings. Tell us what's happening there.
Yes, we are still thinking of meetings with this announcement. Exchange Online, new commandlet to make meetings shorter by default. MC251866. This is a functionality that I think it's actually been getting a lot of talk because there have been... We've been able to do this setting in Outlook, right? Yourself. You've been able to go in there and say, end meetings early, right? So you could check that box, and hour-long meetings, you could end 10 minutes early, and 30-minute meetings, you could end 5 minutes early. So, that's been there in Outlook for you to be able to do. Well, this is actually to be able to do it for your entire organization. To be able to say, we're going to make a decision that we're going to end meetings early, all of them, or we're going to start them late, all of them. You're not going to be able to, when you try to schedule a meeting, it's going to start it late in that case. So this is, it's available today. This is one of those announcements that, voila, it's here. Now, Outlook may take a day, 24 hours for it to recognize that you've run this commandlet. There's a couple of things with this, though, and I'm going to, for those on the video, let's take a look at the if you run the commandlet section. Because, first of all, I talked about that personal setting, if you've set that up, if a user has already created an individual setup at any point, the company-wide policy will not apply to them. Now, I kind of like this and I kind of don't like this. I'm kind of in the middle here, because I, as an admin, when I set a setting, we as an organization have determined this is the way we're going to function. And let's be clear, I think that's what you need to be doing. This is not a IT pro going, oh, look, there's a new setting. I'm going to make all meetings end early because I'm tired of, having to go from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next. No, this needs to be a decision that's made by those enablers and decision makers in your organization. But once you've made that decision, then it won't apply to people who have gone in and tried to, make that decision beforehand, and their settings may be different, but it won't apply to them. So part of me is like, oh, cool, personalization. Other part of me is like, hey, this is an org setting. It should be organization wide and should overwrite everybody's. I don't know. Put those in the comments, please. We'd love to hear your feedback, and those in the chat room. Let us,
Yeah. One other question for you and for those in the chat. Of the two choices, starting a meeting late or finishing it early, which do you think would be more effective? I would want to drive the behavior that you're still coming to the meeting on time. Otherwise, if you're starting it late, then people are just going to, it usually starts 5 minutes late, so let's just turn up eventually. I prefer to drive that finish early one.
We actually had in our most recent regarding 365 contributors meeting, where we get together and chat. We talked about this actually, of which would you prefer? And I think I'm right there with you in that, most meetings start on the hour or at the bottom of the hour. So it's kind of easier in your brain to remember when the meeting starts. So I kind of am with you about ending the meeting early so that, when the next meeting starts. The key though is you have to be on it, because if you do the meeting stopping early, then you have to enforce it. If someone keeps talking, you have to say the meeting's done. Right? Like, bye. I mean, if you have to be on it. But if it starts late, then you could be like, oh, the meeting hasn't started yet. And you can just sit there and start it on time, which would be, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And then end at the top of the hour. Anyway. So my preference is start on time, end early, but you as an organization, you have to have that culture of we're respecting people's time and respecting the meeting time. That's what I would say about that. The other thing I wanted to mention is this little gotcha. It's the biggest little gotcha I think there has been in a message in a while. Meetings scheduled for Microsoft Teams will not N-O-T, respect this setting at all, period. So if you're scheduling Teams, you've moved your organization to Teams or using Teams, and Teams is nice because when you schedule a meeting in Teams, it goes ahead and you don't have to check the box of make this a Teams meeting, an online meeting. You don't have to click the magic button of Teams meeting and Outlook. You just schedule a meeting in Teams and it works. Well, if you do that, it doesn't respect the setting at all. So, frankly, Darrell, by this one bullet point on this message, I think it has greatly reduced the effectiveness of this setting by a large amount. Because you're going to have some people who are creating Teams meetings in Teams, and the settings not even going to apply. So you're going to have some meetings that do it and some meetings that don't, even though you got an org-wide setting. And it also depends on if someone created a personalized setting in Outlook before, it's not going to do it for them anyway. I just don't think, I think this is a great idea. I really, really do think this is a great idea. Coming from a person who's gone from meeting to meeting to meeting, back to back to back, and you're always late because your meetings never end on time, And so you're having to, I got to go. And you click, and then you click again to join the next meeting. I'm loving this, except that there's too many, oh, it won't work if statements. So that has greatly reduced my excitement for this message. Let us know what you think. People would love to get your opinions on that. I hope that I'm not in the minority, but maybe I am. Darrell, let's talk about some cool stuff
Daniel.
with SharePoint and Teams, shall we?
Well, but is it cool? I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's...
Darrell.
All right.
This is our
and
podcast, Darrell. You're supposed to be pumping this up. This is exciting.
All right. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me be over dramatic about this. Let me think about this. Hang on. I'm just going to try and get into my WWF announcer voice. Welcome to the SharePoint and Teams folder feature. This feature makes it visible to show you if it is connected to a channel. Yes. How's that?
That was better.
Better? Did I hype you up?
Yes.
Do I need to bring out like the chair, and like, anyway, I slipped out of that persona. MC252336. This is going to be a useful feature for identifying if you are uploading a file to a SharePoint document library and you're making your way through those folders and you're like, which one should I put it in? I want to make sure that my team can see it. Which one of these folders is connected to the channel I'm after? Well, I can see general, and okay, that's usually a channel, so that's fine. I can handle that. But if you're using other channel names that are a bit more ambiguous, sometimes people get a bit lost, and so they drop a document in just the root of the document library, or they put it in a folder that they thought was a channel, and they get a bit confused. So this feature makes it nice and visible. Daniel's shown it on screen there. Nice little small banner along the top that it calls out when a folder is connected to a channel. Now, the reason I'm sort of not super excited about it, like the people that are now using Teams more to share and collaborate on documents are doing this from Teams. So if they want to upload a file to a channel, they will go into a channel and upload it. They're not really going to the SharePoint document library. And the other area that it's not going to appear, and I find I'm doing this more often now too, if I am in a Office desktop application and I go to save something and I go to my SharePoint sites and I traverse my way through to try and save it directly from the app to where I want it to be so it's available for my team, I'm not going to see whether a folder is connected there or not to a team. So
okay,
it's covering some bases.
I think.
What do you think, Dan?
I think really what's driving this is the other side, not creating content, but deleting. I think that's where I happen to have been in a conversation about this feature, about giving feedback of it needs to be more pronounced of when folders are connected to a channel. Because when a site is connected to a team, the channels save the files there. Yes. But the problem is when you come into the SharePoint site, and news to Darrell, apparently, he thinks that sites that are connected to Teams are never visited other than within Teams, but they are. And when you go to visit that document library and you start to delete a folder, the fear is you delete a folder that's connected to a channel. What happens? Well, they're preventing that now, right? So you're not going to be able to delete a folder. But then why? Why am I having that? So now hey, this is a folder that's connected to a channel, and it's kind of the two-way. Because in Teams, you know what it is. In Teams, you go look at files, you see the files. But in SharePoint, you have no clue what files are connected and what aren't. Especially, like you mentioned, Darrell, the other folders that are not general, right? And especially if you've mixed content, which I have clients that have mixed content. And what I mean by that is you have folders for all of your channels, but then you have other folders that are dispersed with those. And so you've got to make sure that people realize which is which. Now, is this a big deal? I don't think it's a big deal. But it is nice though to have a little bit of, hey, by the way, this is connected to something, just so people don't, get confused. I'm easily confused. So that's, I'm sorry you're not too excited about it, Darrell, but I'm not greatly, I think it's good. I think it's a good feature. It's not going to blow our socks off, but it's, next month starting, we're going to get that feature, right?
Yep. Late May. Yep. Complete by late June. There you go.
So that we were talking about location based, those files where location they were at. Let's talk about another one, a location based access control. That was a stretch. This announcement, MC252197, is actually about conditional access policies. And who doesn't love talking about conditional access policies? Well, what this announcement is, and you might look at this and go, wait, we have location based, right? I mean, we can say, people in North America can't log into our site because we're based in Japan or we're based in New Zealand. And why would we have anyone logging in to our content from North America or wherever, right? So you can set that now, but those policies are based upon IP address. Okay, so it looks at the IP address and goes, that's an IP address in North America for my previous example, so we're not going to allow it. But that's not very accurate. I mean, it is sort of accurate, but IP addresses can traverse, and they're not necessarily zoned specifically to an area. There is some travel there. So this is based upon GPS data, which is terribly exciting. Admins will be able to set these policies based upon GPS data. And this is rolling out, preview starting in early May. And you don't have to do anything if you're not going to use this. But if you want to use this feature, there's a handy link there to get you going called Configure Named Locations in Azure Active Directory. So again, not a crazy exciting announcement here, but for those that are using this, I think you should switch to using that GPS. Now, how is this going to work is a very good question. If you prevent, location-based tracking on your mobile device.
You mean like on the iPhone?
Yep. Which, I think Apple is rolling out an update. I think the next, what I've heard about the next iOS update actually is giving you even more granular control on tracking.
If a user personally makes that choice, yes, well, I don't want this app tracking at all. Does that mean it's going to prevent the person from entirely accessing what they need to from the mobile?
Maybe. And if
so that's something to keep in mind as a troubleshooting thing.
Exactly. And, if it's a company device, then maybe you have to say you will allow it for the Microsoft Authenticator. And if you don't, then you can't access resources. So, so anyway, I think probably using a combination of this, IP addresses and GPS, but I think it's a nice little feature. Let's move on to our quick mentions, shall we? So, Darrell, you have a quick mention about something that I can't hear very well. There's some noise going on.
I can fill that dead air there, Daniel. Okay. It's a feature that we're all experiencing automatically unless you deliberately choose to turn it off on Windows desktops. It's reduced background noise in Microsoft Teams meetings. It's usually turned on by default. It's usually auto. And this feature is now going to be available to Mac users. I have found it works quite well when I've tried to adjust different recording settings, and I know this is not something most people do, but I can see sometimes how this works, where the Teams is adjusting it constantly and making the recording level slider jump on down. So that's how that works. Good to see that it's coming to Mac. That like Mac people also work within noisy environments and want to prevent their chip packets and popcorn from coming across in meetings. They too need to snack like Microsoft do. So no, that was one of the things that we were making fun of, right? That was the key thing that everyone wanted to try and show, that look how well this worked. And a couple of us did crazy things like rubbing it up against stubble or doing other stuff to make it. The vacuum cleaner. Yeah. I want to attend a meeting while I'm on a vacuum cleaner.
While you're on a vacuum cleaner.
Well, it might be a RoboVac.
Okay.
It might be really strong.
Gotcha. So, well, yeah. The thing about this message, though, Darrell, is it's rolling out late April through late August. Wow, that's a rollout time frame.
Stretch.
Wow. Maybe they're getting more realistic with their time frame estimates. I don't know.
Well, and is it per tenant? And the tenant says, "Hey, you're on a Mac or you're on a Windows machine," or is it just that they're staging the availability of this within the App Store? I don't know. But yeah, it'll turn up, and enjoy it when it does.
Right. So
next.
Yes. Next, another quick mention is actually 2 in 1. Well, not really 2 in 1. It's actually 2 separate ones, but it's the same exact thing. This is OneDrive Android outline for PDF viewing, and then there's another one that's Android iOS. I'm sorry. OneDrive iOS outline for PDF viewing. This one is 252196. And basically what this is you're viewing a file in OneDrive on your mobile device. And if that PDF has a table of contents, you're going to be able to navigate that document using that table of contents. It's a very simple message. And I'll switch over to the iOS one as well. Same deal. This is rolling out early May, mid to mid-May. I love this feature. I mean, it's a simple. I think it's kind of one of those simple things. Of course, it should have utilize the built-in table of contents. But when you're on mobile, you don't have a whole lot of screen space. I don't want to be scroll. Use that table of contents. Makes sense to me, right?
Yeah, it's good to see. Means that you can jump directly to what you're reading beforehand, if you can remember that chapter. Yeah. You said the rollout days, didn't you?
I did indeed, indubitably.
Okay. Well, then I'll finish off with this one, which I was in two minds whether we covered this as a quick mention or whether it was a full-on, explanation. But this is about setting your out-of-office message from within Teams. Now, if you're organized, you will do this sort of thing from Outlook. If you're like me and you sometimes remember to do it, maybe twice a year for Christmas holidays and long extended leave. So it works great from Outlook, doesn't it? You get that automatic message. You can set it to whether or not it's been sent to internal people and a different message set to external people. When you are setting it in Outlook, it affects your status message within Teams. So it shows that you're out of office, and it also displays the text that you put for your internal message in your status note. Well, if you are making that complete transition, or you're spending more time working out of Teams and you really desire to be able to change this from Teams, then you can get to most of the functionality from within Teams. So that is coming shortly. You'll be able to schedule that out of office message, and it will affect all those usual places that I just mentioned. What do you need to do to prepare? In this case, it's the usual story. Tell your people that it's available and update your user training and documentation.
I thought you were about to jump into the Brady Bunch. Here's a story.
The Brady Bunch.
About a lovely lady. Anyway. Sorry.
Who really wanted to set her out of office message. She took her kids on a holiday. No, never mind. That's enough.
Wow.
Enough.
I'm sorry, people, that
Daniel.
I did that. I'm sorry I inflicted you all. I'm just joking. Darrell's lovely. I think we don't have a callback this week, and that's okay. Darrell and I were talking about a very exciting feature that's coming out in Teams that we can't tell you about, but that's going to be really exciting when we can get to it. But we don't have a callback this week, and that's fine. Here's the thing. There's a lot of things that have been slipping as far as time frame of rollout. It has been kind of difficult to find callbacks of something that's rolled out recently that we talked about on the show previously.
When's Dynamic View arriving? It's supposed to be rolling out now. Yeah, so that's going to be the default experience for meetings.
Yeah, I don't have it yet.
No? I haven't seen it in our work tenant either, so
No.
It's gradually coming. There's a lot of stuff that is going to start coming out in the new month as well, so it's going to be a quiet ease into the end of April.
Indeed. So that is the end of our show, really. Again, remember, please to subscribe both to the podcast. That lovely if you would subscribe wherever you are. If you're listening from iTunes or Spotify or Podbean, or there's iHeartRadio. There's tons of places where we are. Give us a subscribe there so you can get the latest update, and then make sure you hit that thumbs up button and the bell and all that jazz on YouTube. As Darrell says, you know where you are, so you know what to do. We need to make up stickers that says, you know where you are, you know what to do. And just sit there and watch.
You know where to find us.
Watch them, see what they do. You know where you are. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate it. And episode 192. We've been talking about some things for episode 200. That sounds like a nice round number. So that'd be exciting for us to do some interesting things there. So you need to, maybe we should start like dropping hints so people will keep listening.
Or getting suggestions.
And suggestions. If you have suggestions about, hey, it would be really cool to see the guys do this, then drop that in.
I know. We're opening it up here, Daniel, but I was talking about this with some family and friends yesterday, about how sometimes a TV show can get it right and they finish after a certain number of seasons. They don't go on and on and on because, just for greed and that. So maybe one of the suggestions is going to be, hey guys, finish on a high note, finish on 200. Do you want us to keep going?
Sure. If y'all want us to quit, I guess we can just ignore you. See, I got you. All right. Thank you everyone for watching and listening this week. Catch us on Clubhouse this week as well. We'll schedule that and tweet it and all that jazz. And I'll actually show up this time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.